Let's talk about some fall crafting. Hello friends, Mayflom here for Dress It Up Buttons, and today we are going to be making this fun little felt ornament. You could hang this on the wall, make it a part of a banner, put it on a gift, lots of options. But before we get to that, we want to start out by talking a little bit about embroidery stitches. So this is the thread I use. It's DMC embroidery thread. There's 6 strands. And you can separate it out so that you are using 1, 2, 3, or all 6. For this example, I'm going to be using 2 strands, and there's different methods to tying this off the end or securing the end. I'm just going to tie a little knot for our demonstration because what I'm going to do is show you a couple of stitches. Now there are a lot of different stitches and options. The first one I'm going to do is what you might call a straight stitch or a running stitch, basically just in and out on the fabric, or in this case the felt. Now I will say make sure that you are not pulling really hard on your felt. You don't want your felt to distort. That's my tip for you for sewing with felt. The next one that I am going to show you is a back stitch. Essentially, this is going to make a straight line. Your keys here are you're going to want nice even stitches. You go up and then you go back in through the end of the last stitch. So when you're coming up and through, you're making a solid line of stitches. And normally I would probably do these smaller. I just did it big for demonstrative purposes. So lots of good to be had there. Now what I am showing you here, if your thread gets all twisty, what you're going to want to do is let it hang down from the bottom of your project, kind of help it straighten out, but give it a moment to unwind if it gets wound up too much and twisted and not looking so pretty. Now next up here, we are doing a cross stitch, so literally just making an X. And as far as when you would use these stitches, there's lots of different reasons. There's, maybe you do satin stitch, which is when you fill the entire area with stitching. It'll depend on your project and what kind of things are you doing. What I am doing here now that you can see where I'm going over, so I did one long stitch and then I'm going back over. This is usually referred to as a couching stitch. So you've got a long piece and then you're kind of securing it along there with thread. And I just think this is the cutest little stitch with details. It's a lot of fun. It also works really well with contrasting colors, or maybe you've got some art fiber that you want to tack down. This would be great for that. Lot of different options, but you'll always hear me say that because there's always lots of options in our stitching. And then the next one I am going to show you here, let's see, we're going in and pulling through, but there's a number of stitches where you see my thumb is holding that, and then I'm going to come up where I want that loop to hold and then go to the left. This is called a feather stitch. So you're kind of making like a chain almost of little loops, and you can pull them very tight and have them be more like V's. You can have them a little looser. You've got a lot of options here, and there's a lot of different ways that you can go about this. I will also tell you at this point that there's lots of times that you can kind of, if not invent your own stitch, then kind of do your own thing where you're doing a variation. You're just kind of trying to come up with a look here, and the look that you've come up with is, this is the way you like to do it. Now I'm showing you a chain stitch. So this is where you're making kind of a loop, but you're actually making 2 tiny holes, but basically you're making kind of loops that chain together. And there's a couple different ways to do this. There's a couple different approaches. The one that I'm using, this is what I'm going to be using on our project, which is why I'm showing it here. And by the way, these are just a few. There are endless stitches, and you'll have to share if you would like us to put more of these stitches and things in our content. Now what you see me doing here, I just wrapped thread around the needle 3 times, and then I'm pinning the one end with my finger and then pulling the needle through. And once I get the needle through, I can let go and pull this loop through. This is known as a French knot. This makes like nice little knots and cute little decorative dots. So there you go. There's a couple of stitch options. Now that we're through those, let's pull out our buttons. So I have an assortment. I have the fox button singles from Dress It Up Button Shop, and I have different fall leaves. I also have felts. These felts are from Benzie Designs. They're where I always get my felt, and really nice quality, great for different crafting. Now I've cut out a pumpkin shaped freehand, and then I used a large cup to make a circle pattern. And yes, I did draw right on the felt because I'm going to be using that as the inside. So I'm going to need 2 circles of green felt and of course my 1 pumpkin, because I will want to use one of these felt circles to kind of back my little ornament or tag or gift topper, whatever, however I'm going to use this. A lot of different options here, but I'm just cutting out my 2 circles there. And you want a nice sharp pair of scissors for your felt crafts. And then I'm also going to get a stem going here. So I've got a stem. I know I'm a little bit off camera there, but I'm just cutting an approximate stem color piece of brown felt and just laying this out to make sure that everything fits the way I'd like it to. If it does, it's time to get out thread. I mentioned earlier when we were talking about thread, I'm going to be using 2 strands. So I'm going to start by putting on a button. I'm just going to start with a button. So I'm going to at first stitch this button into place and then stitch just that running stitch around the edge of the pumpkin just to tack everything down. Now I did not put any kind of adhesive or backing on my felt pieces. I felt confident I could just stitch them together. However, you're always welcome to use some kind of a fusible interfacing or stabilizer or something of that nature to iron things together, iron things on. Then I'm getting into my shank buttons. And the thing I love about using shank buttons on felt projects is it's so easy and they look so good, and the shank holds everything together. So the shank is the little loop on the back, and to sew these on, all you're going to be doing is putting your needle and thread through. Now you can keep the thread together or you can individually knot off. That's going to depend on what you would like. Remember that we're going to be covering this felt circle up, so it's okay if there's a lot of thread and messiness and all of that. I usually go through 2 or 3 times to make sure that the button is extra stable and secure and is not going to fall off. And once we get all of our shank buttons on, we're going to move on to the buttons with the little holes. I love these little leaves with these little holes. They're so much fun. And my favorite way to put them on any project is to stitch them like this individually with the little tail ends of the thread just kind of clipped off there, but just kind of dangling, little tails of thread. I absolutely love this look. So you're just going to put these wherever you would like them. I'm just kind of trying to decorate like falling leaves on my pumpkin here. And as you can see, just going through and double knotting each one. Now, if you are concerned, you could add a drop of a clear drying adhesive or even a nail polish, a little bit. If you had a matte finish nail polish, a little drop on top of that thread if you are concerned or have a project type that's going to be very high contact, be in contact with a lot of different stuff, have a lot of different stuff going on. So you can do that, and you can add as many or as few as you want. You could add different colors of thread. You have truly, truly limitless options here. There are so many ideas that you can do. And I'm doing a fall pumpkin because these leaves and this fox made me think of it. But for the holiday season coming up, for so many things, there are a lot of options for us to create. And this gets into ornaments. We can build these projects up into home decor things. Today's video, I really just wanted to show you a very easy, very simple project. And you can share with me, what would you like us to show you more of in the future? Now, once you have everything done, or as close to done as it's going to be, I just took a little piece of silk ribbon and I knotted it. So there is a little hole at the top, and I am putting the 2 circles of felt together. And then what I am going to do is just take my needle and thread and I'm going to start. So where I'm going to start, I'm actually going to probably add another little button here. So I don't have my knot there. I need to get my knot handled, which I will. But first I'm going to thread my button through. And then I'm going to do, remember we talked about that chains or daisy stitch, however you want to say it. So then I'm going to go ahead and start that once I have everything all secure. And basically what I'm doing here is just tying a little knot here. Now there will be a little bit of stitching here on the very back of my circles, and that's totally, honestly, it's totally fine. It's not a problem. You know, if it really is a problem, what you could do is to add an additional, or you would have to adhere with some kind of a strong adhesive. You would have to adhere a circle on the back versus what I am doing. I am good with just a little bit of thread showing. So we're just going to go ahead and do that stitching. So I've made my loop, and this is just going to repeat over and over, and then I'm going to make another loop, but then what I will do is bring this back around, and I'm actually going to pierce not the same hole. I will pierce right next to where I was initially. And projects like these, felt projects, they're just so much fun because I can sit down and do them. They're very portable. You can take them on the road if you're waiting for school pickup, if you're on a road trip, whatever you might be doing. And they're really great giftables. And this certainly is the season that I am thinking about crafting gifts for my loved ones. I hope that you have been inspired by this tutorial. Please do leave us notes. What would you like to see in future? And of course, stay tuned and be sure to tag the Dress It Up Button Shop with any of your creations.